Hey everyone, welcome to my brand new series on the channel. Over the next 7 videos, I'm going to take you through the entire process of how I bring this robot to life. As you can see here, we created this scene. So we're just building the robot itself. We're building the environment, the props, the screws, the lamp, the books, all sorts. And this project's been a massive learning journey for me. So I've been documenting everything. So figuring out the modeling, texturing, using the animation, and then we look at tools like Mixamo and also Quick Magic AI. And I plan to keep on improving on my project. I want to share my progress so you can follow along with the build. So if you want to create your own version of this, I do go at a slow pace. So feel free to join in and follow along. And to make it easier, I'm going to drop all 7 clips right at the start so you can binge watch them all if you want. There'll be a playlist there for you. I'm really excited to show you how this all came together. Let's jump in to part 1. Alright, so we have a blank empty scene. Not blank, but we have a new scene. We can delete the camera and the light source. We can keep the default cube. Actually, let's delete the cube. Let's keep the cube. Delete, keep it up to you. I'm going to start with a cube. I'm going to add a modifier, generate, and I'll add a subdivision surface, and I'll increase this to 2. Right. I'm going to go into edit mode. Yep. I'm going to go right click. I'm also going to right click, shade auto smooth. There we go. And I'm going to also turn the face, select this face. I'm going to go to faces, select this side face and this side face. And I just want to kind of pull this out. Right. And then I want to scale this in, the back one, a little bit. All right. Now, we want to add some loop cuts in here. So I want a nice rounded edge though. So I want maybe something like this. I think that's okay. And then the front. And then at the bottom. I'll go something like this. I'm happy with that shape. Now, I know it's not very even, so you can kind of select this loop here and you can kind of shift it across. Try to like even it out, but it's okay. I think that's pretty good. Now you can change the angle of the shading here, the shade smooth, so you just increase that value. It sorts that artifacting out there. Now if you want to increase this a little bit more, you can. And then feel free to play with it, so maybe I'll select this edge loop here and I'll kind of just move this up a little, move this down a little, I'll play around with it until I'm happy with the shape I want. Maybe I'll bring these in and just kind of scale it, see what that looks like. There's no right or wrong. Maybe scale them out, and maybe we'll select these 2 and scale them in. Just get a shape that you're happy with. Anyway, I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to add another cube, and this will be the face, the actual face plate. So this is the head, so we can name these as we go along. So let's name this head, and then we call this face. All right, and I'm going to just apply a modifier to this face. So I'm going to add a bevel. And increase that, make it nice and round, and then I'll just squish it down. So it just sits on the front. Right. If I hit Control A and apply that scale, then the bevel a little bit better, and then I can adjust the bevel if I want. And I'll just push this in about halfway. There we go. And maybe I'll angle it slightly, like so. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to just do is add a subdivision modifier, and then put that to 2 shade smooth. There we go. Now we've got a little, almost like it's like a TV. Maybe we can make it a little bit chunkier. It's a bit too. There we go. Something like that. All right. Let's give it some ears. Very simple geometry. You notice we haven't used anything too complex. We just use some subdivision surfaces and bevels, and you can go in there and tweak this to your liking. Like, you don't have to follow me like 100%. You can make your own designs. But I'm going to use this cylinder, and I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees, and this will be an ear. We're going to turn this into some kind of ear. So we're going to go into here, just pull it out. I'm going to go to edit faces, and I'll push this face in. Instead of me going up here, we're switching tools. I'm going to go up here, up here, and I'm just going to check these. So now, when I'm using, if I use the select tool, I have all three there on the gizmo, and it just makes it easier. You know, if I want to move or scale, I can just switch between. Same on edit mode, you can do the same thing. Cool. So just push this in. And we want to inset this face. So we want to inset this face a little. So I'm going to go here, inset face, and we're going to just drag this in. It doesn't need to be too much. And then I'll push it in. Oh, it's the same bug. Let me get it this time. Sorry, interruption. 2 seconds. 1 second. Let's throw out the window. Keeps on escaping. I get it? I don't know where it's gone. It's gone. I don't know where it disappears. Anyway, let's push this in. I think something like that looks nice. What I'll do is actually bevel this edge myself. So I could have put a modifier on here, but I'm gonna just select this edge loop. So I'm gonna click on one edge, hold Alt, and then select the entire loop. Right click, bevel edge. And actually, before we do that, you can undo Control A, Tab, Control A, apply the scale. Now apply the bevel, and you should have a better looking bevel. And you can increase that count if you want. I think something like this looks okay. I'm going to just say shade auto smooth. Yeah. Let's add a subdivision surface just to this as well. Nah, actually not. We don't need it. That's terrible. We'd have to add more edge loops. Let's play around with the sharpness on this angle here. So we just adjust the smooth. There we go. I'll just increase that value just to get rid of that sharp edge. Cool. I'll change the angle here, and that's solved the problem. Now I want to mirror this, so I'm going to add a mirror modifier, because I don't want to have to model this twice and then position it. So I'm going to use the mirror modifier. And now we want to mirror on the y-axis, so I'm going to say y, and the object that we're going to mirror on is the head. So it flips it to the other side. Alright, next I want to build these little antennas that stick out. You can just stick out here, and we'll just use a cube, mesh cube. And I'll push this up and move this over. I want to scale this in, something like this, and let's move it across a little bit. I think that's it. Alright, we may have to just push these ears out a tiny bit. There we go. If it sticks out like this, you can kind of select this face here and kind of pull it back in. There we go. I just want somewhere for the ears to kind of connect. I think somewhere like that is fine. And we can have like a in between, like a little sphere, like a connection point. Anyway, let's select this bottom face. We're going to scale this in. So on this bottom face here, we're going to scale this in like so. And I'll scale it in here a little bit so it's kind of tapered. And it kind of goes back, it kind of scales back out. So it's kind of got like this kind of tapered look, as you can see. And we're going to scale it in a little bit more. And what I'm going to do is press E to extrude, and then drag it up, pull it up, and I'll scale this down and in, so it gets thinner at the top. Now if I hit tab to go back out to object mode, I want to scale this down a little bit more. There we go. And perhaps I'll make it a little bit more, like squish it in a little bit. But yeah, tweak that until the shape you're happy with. I'm going to add a modifier. I'm going to drop a subdivision surface on there. Boom. And I'm going to add a bevel as well and place this above. There we go. And right click, shade auto smooth. That's looking nice. And of course you can play around with your bevel and you can control, get that really looking nice and smooth. You can reduce that to, I think, something like that. This looks alright. Maybe I can just pull out this edge loop a little bit. Just a tiny bit. There we go. Yeah, I like the look of that. I'm going to just add a modifier, mirror modifier. Oh. And we're going to again repeat on the y-axis. And we just want to use the head as the object. There we go. So we have our head pretty much. So what I'm going to do is actually name some of these. So maybe I'll name this like ear 1. And then this can be ear 2, for example. And then later on we'll split this, but right for now I'll leave it as a mirrored. Let's just move all of this up. So let's move this up. But we have a head. Now it doesn't need to be that tall. We're not going for a massive robot. Right. And we want to build the body. So we can, again, the same way we built a body, the head, we can use a cube and a subdivision. So we'll go mesh, cube. I'm going to apply a subdivision. The subdivision surface, and I'm going to go move this up. I'm going to scale this out. I'm going to hit tab, and then actually let's put this to 2. Let's select faces, and let's select this top face, and I pull this down. And I'm going to press E, extrude up. There we go. It kind of flattens it out a little, and then I'll scale this in. So it kind of gives us like a little flat area at the top, but a little bit rounded still. I'm going to select this bottom and taper it. So it's kind of, you see, we get this kind of shape. Almost similar to this shape. But now we're going this shape that's opposite, kind of. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, so you can kind of shape this and scale it to the proportions you want. I think something like this will be alright. So if I hit E again, I can kind of bring this down. So it's like adding another edge loop here. I can just taper this in a tiny bit as well. And I think that's okay. Perhaps I want to move this edge in on the back. So just push this in. So it's more flat on the back side, and then I can probably bring these two edges in as well. There we go. It's not a fully rounded, it's slightly, got a back to it. And perhaps we can add something like a backpack or a jetpack or something else on there as well. Now I'm going to just move the head slightly up. So I'm going to select everything just slightly. And I'm just going to add a cylinder for the neck piece. I'm going to add the neck. So I'm just going to go geometry, mesh, and let's get a torus. Should we use a torus? Let's use a torus. Something small. Scale this down. So I'm just holding S to scale this down. I'm going to right click, shade that smooth. And then I'll just grab a cylinder as well. Mesh, cylinder, and that will just scale down and place it in place. Put it in place. There we go. Nothing too complicated about this. And then of course you can play around with scale of this and the look. look and feel. So at least we have a neck. Now we have a body. If I right click and shade auto smooth, now we have a nice body. Well, nothing too complex, right? Now let's add some hips. So what we can actually do is we can just maybe borrow this and flip it upside down, right? So we can borrow the body. And let's name these parts as well, so we don't have them called cube, cylinder, and so on. So maybe we can call this body, and this is, we can call this maybe neckline, and then that can be the neck. If it lets me select it, there we go. It's gonna be your neck. There we go. All right, I'm going to duplicate this, Shift D. I'm gonna turn it around. So, oh, wrong way. I'm gonna get the rotation and rotate this 180. Let's scale it down so slightly smaller, and then I'll just adjust these faces. So if I go to X-ray mode, I'm just going to select all these top faces here. I scale this in and I scale it down like this, and push this up. And I'll just kind of shape it something like this. So I'm just doing S to scale proportionally in all directions. So I'm going to pull this in and kind of push this out, and I'm just moving it around till we get this kind of nice shape. We've got kind of little separation between the the hips and the body. Yeah, let's turn the X-ray off, see how that looks. Yeah, maybe we could fix this up a little. Maybe we can add an additional level to that kind of fixes this. Or we can also maybe tweak this, so we can, if you want to move this edge loop, you could make this a little bit more rounded, more tapered. It's really up to you. There's no right or wrong, right? And then you can kind of tighten this up. You can select this bottom loop, and we can pull this in, maybe something like that, and we can just push this up. But yeah, play around with it, tweak it to your liking, right? So we've got kind of a body going on. We have a neck, we have a head. Now I feel this comes out too far as well, looking at it from the side profile. So again, you can go to X-ray. I'll go to X-ray. I'll go to vertices, and you can do the same thing. Just change these points, move them around, and tweak it. I'll do the same on here. I'll pull this in, pull this down and forward. If I want to add additional cuts, I can do that. So there's no right or wrong, and you can go here into the front view, and you can go in there and tweak the body too. Or if I want to select both like this, and I can scale this inwards. There we go. Maybe something like this. And tiny bit. Maybe we pull this down and pull this out just a tiny bit. Yeah, I think that's okay. Like I said, I can come back and tweak this, and carry on. I'm gonna call this hips. The hips. All right, let's add some joints. So we're gonna add some shoulders, and that'll be we'll just use a mesh, and we'll just use this UV sphere, and I'll kind of place this, scale it. So I'm hitting S. So anything you see I press, you can see all the key presses up here in the screencast. So if I hit S or Shift or Alt or whatever it is, or whatever key presses on the mouse, you can see what I'm doing. Shade Auto Smooth. And I think somewhere about here, maybe half, I don't know. I think that's okay. Maybe slightly up and closer. But yeah, it's really up to you finding that sweet spot for you. I'm gonna add a modifier, generate. mirror. And we can also, when you add the arms and legs, you might want to change proportions and scale it and stuff anyway. Anyway, I'm gonna go here, mirror object. So now we have shoulder on both sides. Now let's build out an arm. So the arms are going to be pretty straightforward. Just going to use cylinder. So I'm going to add a mesh, and I want to get a cylinder. Oh. I'm going to rotate this, and I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. Boom. And push this up and scale it down and put it in position so it's kind of connected into the shoulder joint. Now, of course, like I said, you can play around with the scale like this. Okay. I think that looks okay for now. I'm going to go to edit mode. Edit mode. I'm going to select this face. Pull this out. Now, how far do you want the arms, or how long? Entirely up to you. I think somewhere like this. So if the elbow is here, this is the wrist. Maybe in, I can adjust it, but I think something like that should look alright. Shade auto smooth, maybe a little bit longer. There we go. Alright, now we need to add additional loop cuts. So I'm going to add about 6. So I'm going to click on the middle, and then I'll add about 6. Now with these loop cuts selected already, I'm going to right click. Before I do that, actually, I'm going to hit tab, Control A, apply scale. Now I'll go tab back in, and then I'll right click, bevel edge, and I'm going to add a bevel in the between. So I'm going to create like little divisions in there, and I'm just going to scale this back to 1. Now what I'm going to do is inset, extrude along, sorry, I want to extrude along normals, so I'm going to select the extrude along normals and pull this in like so. So it's rather than it just being a cylinder, we have some kind of detail in here. All right. Now I'm going to delete this end, this face. All right, we don't need it. And if I go to X-ray, I'm going to delete this face. We don't really need it. Cool. And I'm also going to apply a subdivision modifier to this, so it's going to be nice and smooth. It's nice and rounded. And then what I'm going to do is just apply a bevel. We're going to apply the bevel just before the subdivision. There we go. It's still got our shape, and then you can of course tweak your bevel. So you can see if I want it more sharp, you can go from sharp. If I want a bit more rounded, then go more rounded. And then you can add more segments as well. So the more segments, the sharper it's going to be, Let's find that look that you want. I think for me, I'll go with, let's see, 2, maybe 2. Yeah, 2. I might even stick to 1. Maybe I'll stick to 1. But it's always there, so I can come back and tweak it, like I said. Anyway, let's get another cylinder. We're going to mesh at the cylinder. So we're going to do the wrist. So this is going to be the wrist, the cylinder. So we can cap this off. Oh, I'm going to rotate this 90. Sorry, I went flipped around to the other side. I'm going to move this over here and scale this down. Let's zoom in. So I hit period key on the numpad just to zoom into the object or whatever you have selected. It's just a shortcut. And I'll scale this down. And you just kind of position it. So this is like the wrist, and I'm going to add Control A, scale, apply the scale, and then I'll add a bevel to that. I think something like this. Shade auto smooth. Then I'm going to just change that angle just to fix those edges there. Now I want another cube, which will be the palm. So I'm going to treat this as the palm. So it's not going to be, like I said, it's very you see, very simple geometry. I'm not doing anything too complicated. I'm just going to move this into place and scale this down, shift it around. Now, I don't mind it being like a cube. I want it more, a bit more beveled. So I'm going to add the subdivision surface to this. Boom. Set that to 2, and I'm going to just add a bevel modifier and increase the bevel. Oh, make sure it's before. There we go. And that shade auto smooth. Now I'll play around with that bevel first. So that's 2 maybe. That I like that look. And then all we're going to do is model a little thumb coming out the side here. So it'll be, if I annotate this, so you will have, we're going to keep it like really simple pieces. So it'll be three fingers. So it'll be 3 fingers and a thumb. So it'll be cubes. We can just reuse this cube, and we're just going to create, like you have on your real finger, you have 3 segments on your finger. We're just going to do the same. So, you know, you got 3 pieces, and we can just create that like this. Oh no, hopefully that makes sense. And we create a little hand. Now let's erase this. Oh. All right. Let's look at it from above. I'm going to shift and then duplicate this finger. This will be a finger, and kind of scale it. And you can kind of place it in, put it in where you want it. So this is the thumb, for example. So what I'm going to do is actually shift D. Actually, let's try something different. Let's see if this actually... will it work? Nah, let's just keep it in separate pieces. So I'm going to pull this out. Something like this. Shift D. Kind of position this. Shift D. Oh, make sure I look at it from above. A bit easier to control. And what we can do, maybe you can put like a little sphere between that connecting. And we can also maybe just put this in a little bit. They're not all the same size. Alright, and then I'm going to do just duplicate these. Actually, I'll duplicate this one, Shift D from above, rotate this, and we'll start creating the fingers. And of course, we can change those. So the tip will be smaller than those two. And because it's a robot, we can have them each finger the same size. There we go. If you want, you can go in and, you know, tweak these. You can model these. I'm just keeping it very simple, like I said, but you can go in here if you wanted. So if I select, let's select all of these, and I say X-ray for some going X-ray. I'm going to choose all of these and change this to individual origins and scale them a little bit, and scale it here. So then, you know, it's a bit more tapered. You can do that. And then maybe you want to taper these fingers too. So you can kind of taper those fingers, and then you can taper this thumb. So you have, you know, a bit more of a basic. It's a basic hand. It's not. It's just, we're just blocking it out. It's nothing fancy. And I'll just kind of turn this back to medium point, and I'll just rotate it a little bit like that. And I'll rotate these out a little bit. Fantastic. And like I said, we want to create some kind of joints in between, so it's not just these little gaps. So I'm going to just get a mesh, and I'll use a UV sphere or something. It could be cubes again if you want, or it could be UV sphere. And I'll just kind of just place this in the joints. And then let's make sure we get it in place. So I've just done it from above. There we go. And I'll just shift duplicate, shift D. We have a little robot hand. Maybe this cube is a little bit too big. Maybe I can squish it down. It's just preference, right? And you can even probably shape it a little. Select this edge loop here. Pull this in. Put this in a tiny bit. Yeah, I think that's all right. So we have a hand. Now we want to mirror all of this, right? Let's start mirroring this. So on the arm, I'm just going to add a mirror. And we just kind of do the same. So we can just go mirror, Y, and then the body. Now, it might be easier if we just put the hand as one object, but I want to assign some materials to this before I do that, so I don't have to don't have to do it multiple times. Or actually, no, it doesn't matter. We can do it just fine. Yeah. Let's do it and then group it so we don't have to. We can join this all together. So we don't have to think. Let's just quickly apply some materials, just so we can just make sure they're all separate pieces, easier to select using a material or something. So I'm gonna call this like plastic white, and then just change that roughness a little bit. Don't worry, you won't see much, but yeah. Anyway, new. I'll just call this orange. And then of course a little bit of roughness. There we go. And then the hands. Maybe I go gray plastic, for example. And then just give that gray. And now I want all the fingers to be that gray. So what I can do is just select everything, all these gray, like all these little joints, like this, and then kind of go gray plastic, click on this little drop down, copy to selected. And I want to apply a new one here, new material. I don't know, metal joint. And maybe this is like a grey 2, a bit darker and more metallic, and bring the roughness down so you can pick up some. And then we'll just go select all of these joints, all the spheres, should I say. So it would be easier if I go to wireframe, so I can just select them like so. If you accidentally select, you just hold shift down and you click on that object that you don't want, and then it will deselect itself. There we go. I'll try to go in the gaps to kind of easier to select them. Oh, there we go. And I'll say metal joint, copy material to selected. There we go. So now with the hand, got the wrist. Let's might as well color in the arm since we're here. I'll just call this metal. There we go. And we can bring that roughness down and make it metallic. We'll tweak all of these materials later anyway. I'll also add a second material. I'll just call this rubber 1 or something rubber. So in between, I want this to kind of look like rubber. So I'm going to select this, Alt Shift, select that loop, and I'll just do the same on these. and then holding Alt and Shift down, and then I will assign this material to that selection. Like so. Now I can color this in. That's it. Just rubber. And then you can play around with that roughness. So I want the roughness down. I think that's okay. Like I said. Now this hand, everything's got a material here. Just make sure. So these all have material. So what I can do is just select all this, the whole hand here, all these items. Make sure go to X-ray. Let's go back into here. And let's make our life a little bit easier to see. Let's put this to random. And look at it from above. Select the whole hand, like I said. And go right click, say join. So even though it's one piece, you still have there's still individual parts. The only problem is, let me undo. When I applied the modifiers, not they're getting overridden and not applying correctly. So we will have to apply the modifiers how we want. So I'm going to go hit through these and just hit apply. Once you're happy with it, I would say apply the modifiers, but and then on these cubes as well, because they have different. I know they're quite dense. We're adding quite a lot of. There are a lot. Oh, did not duplicate. Apply. There we go. I don't want to duplicate the modifier. I believe you can actually hold Shift, Alt, and then click Apply. Right? Is it Shift Alt? Right? No, maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was Shift Alt and you can do multiple objects. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Apply. I know it's a bit long. Hopefully it'll be worth it. Like I said, it's not looking terrible for our little robot. If you watch my old previous one, did it a while back. Hopefully this will be a big upgrade to that tutorial. Anyway, I'm just going to right click and just say shade smooth, auto smooth on everything there. And now we can finally join this all back up. Boom. Now I've got the hand, and I can go object, center, origin, surface of mass. Maybe I'll center that pivot. You can move the origin by just clicking the options origin, and you can kind of move this pivot point yourself. Right, here's okay. Boom. Anyway, what I'll do is duplicate this. So add a mirror modifier, and we want it on the Y, and it will be the body. There we go. Now we have a hand on each side. You can also turn cavities on. Oh, makes it pop a little bit. You can see all the corners and edges and bevels better. Make sure to save your work. Let's call this rabbit robot. I don't know, rabbit. It looks like a rabbit robot. Name it whatever you like. You can name it like T2000, T1000, whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Anyway, let's do the legs. Now the legs, I'm gonna model the same way as the arms. So I'm gonna just Shift D, duplicate, pull this down, and rotate this. I haven't named any of my parts, which is very bad. So I'm gonna go back and do that. But we're just gonna place this in, and now we have some legs. There we go. And what we can do is we can just go in here and start naming some of these. So this can be shoulders, you know, arms, hands. This is not difficult, right? And then like legs, you know. There we go. So now we started name. Now we don't have like cube, cylinder. That's a good way to, you know, make sure you keep your naming. Now we can choose to either have some joints like this. Now it's entirely up to you that what you're trying, the look you're going to go for. I think this would be alright, but I'll make sure I want it aligned better and straighten up. Now I'm thinking maybe the hips need to be a little bit bigger, and then these can go up a little. I think that'll be alright. I feel the body is a bit too big. So I'm going to select everything on the head. This is my preference, just my choice. It's like I said, you might be happy with it, but I'm going to just be a bit picky. So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to just scale this down together. Oh. Why have we got a leg selected? Oh, because the leg's connected to the mirror. I understand. That's alright, don't worry, we'll fix that. So maybe I'm going to play around with this. I'm looking at the... I think there, because I want the head to be quite big compared to the body. Just kind of looking at this. I think that's okay. I think that's a bit better. I felt the body was too big. Or maybe it feels too long. Maybe that's my issue with it. So I'm going to just hit tab, go into edit mode, and just pull this up a tiny bit. There we go. And then I can pull this up and scale this down. Yeah, I think that's okay. I might change my mind later. So anyway, let's put these legs in. I've got these little legs, these really long arms. I don't mind that actually. Now the shoes. Let's add some shoes. So I'm gonna hit save. We're gonna build some shoes. I'm gonna use a cube, right? And just use a simple cube. Nothing complicated. We're gonna just it's gonna be really simple. Geometry, simple modeling. Something like this. Pull this up and pull this forward. And we want to kind of, shape our shoe a little bit. We want to shape it, so let's kind of go to the side view here, X-ray. So I want these vertices, and I want to pull them down. So and we want to add edge loop here. So create it like a boot, almost, and we can extrude this part up. We can select this face, and we can just move along normals if we want. Actually, let's just press E. Let's make sure this is on medium point. Yeah, E. And I'll just extrude up. Alright, so it's a little bit too big. I'll move that across. There we go. Now I don't want this clipping into the other object. So I've asked a good way is to mirror this as well. Mirror Y, and then the body is. Let me zoom out so I can select the body, but body, you can see they're already clipping. So maybe I'll move these out a little bit, and we'll just have a joint, like a little ball here to give this space, and then this. Also, I'm just going to merge off just so they don't. There's no connection there. And I'll scale this in. Here we have some shoes now. Look fantastic, alright? Amazing. Let's see if we can make this a little bit better. So let's add the subdivision surface. There we go. Look at those shoes. They look so fancy. Alright, we're gonna go edit mode. I'm going to add some loop cuts. So let's add the loop cut at the bottom. Let's add the loop cut at the front. And you're just going to add loop cuts so we're just going to shape the shoe. Really. It's not nothing else really. It's just shaping the shoe. So I kind of like that. I think that's okay. I mean, they're a bit long, so select these vertices and go X-ray mode. I'm going to select all these vertices. I'm just going to push this back here. And that looks alright. Not the best shoes, but they are shoes. Right, and we can taper these in a little because right now they just kind of like blocky. So can kind of select all of these, and we can scale them in. Because these two here as well, which you kind of missed. Kind of scale this in, and you start to get this kind of shoe shape. So just kind of shape it to your preference. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect, and it's not, you know, you'll just find the shape you want. I think that is okay. I'm happy with that. I'm going to shade auto smooth. Now I want to extrude some pieces out of this. So I'm going to select this face. I'm going to select this edge loop, this bottom edge loop here, and I want to extract. So I'm going to Shift D to duplicate. So I've duplicated that. Then right click, and then I'm going to say separate selection. So now we have two pieces. And now on here, I'm going to add a modifier, generate, and then I'm going to say solidify. Now, because it's solidified, I can kind of pull these out and then, add this on. And we've got like the bits of our sole kind of sticking out, and we can kind of say add another modifier and say bevel. We can bevel this edge out. I want to change this to even thickness as well. And then I'll play around with the bevel here. Increase the number of count, and you can kind of tweak that bevel. And you can also right click shade auto smooth. And then again, I'm going to click on the shoe, and then I want another piece. So I'll say I want this part of the body, for example. Say I want this part. Let's choose this. Actually, let's say this face. Let's create something kind of different. Let's say we want these faces here, and we want to extract out. So Shift D. So now we have this piece. Then right click again, separate selection. Now we have another piece, and then we can edit this piece. So if we select it, we can go to edit mode, and we can kind of move these edges. So if we select this edge and this edge, kind of pull this in, down. You can pull this down as well. Like, just move it around. Doesn't need to be like perfect. We add the solidify again on this, generate. Solidify. Let's solidify. Can everyone see solidify? Solidify. Boom. Pull this out. Now we've got some kind of cool trainers. No, it's not like just a simple block. And then we're going to add a bevel on there. And I'll just let you, design your own trainer. But yeah, I'm just going to add that. Now we're going to just add some cylinders. So maybe add a cylinder here and a cylinder here. So what I could actually do is maybe borrow the ear. I'm going to actually borrow the ear because we already modeled something similar. So Shift D and reuse some of this and position it where I want. So fill this in. Because it's mirrored already, all I have to do is kind of position it and scale it. So I have to change the mirror's object because the object is not the head, it's the body for the shoes. So I'm gonna here object, and it'll be the shoes, and I'll just kind of scale that. Then I'll duplicate this again, Shift D, and then I'll add this on the side. I'll just add an additional detail onto the, just simple geometry. Like I said, it's nothing fancy. I can pull this out. And then let's select this face here on the inside. Let's inset the face. Boom. And then we'll extrude this out. So we can, got something different going on here. And then of course I'm going to go to edit mode, tab A. So I'm in edit mode and I'm going to now duplicate it within inside itself. And then just flip this over. It's easier if I show you in X-ray mode what I'm doing. And put this on this side. There we go. And I can pull this out. Now we've got some kind of trainers, we've got some funky trainers going on. Like I said, and then you can go in here and like I said, you can move these around, till you're happy with it. So maybe I'm not happy with this and I want to pull this back. Maybe these are too, pointy. I can kind of select these vertices and put this in. And then move these down or up or around. Yeah, but it's entirely up to you. Maybe you want some kind of wing shoes like Apollo. You can call them Apollo shoes or whatever you want. Yeah, maybe that's kind of cool. But yeah, play around with it. Add more, take away. Well, I think we're alright with that. Let's just put the hips in. Shift D. Scale this down and pull this in. Like this. I think that looks alright. We have a robot. Now we just got to name some of our objects and start grouping some of these and putting materials. And we're ready to either build our environment or start rigging this. Maybe we'll rig it. Alright, so I just want to tweak some of these proportions still, and just little tweaks. I mean, you don't have to do this. It's really entirely up to you. I still think the body kind of, maybe I want it more. I'm going for like a more cute look. Make sure I've got the X-ray on, so I want a bit more rounded and shorter. I think it's way too big. For what it is. So I'm just gonna scale. It's just scaling. It's not much doing much to it. I'm just gonna move some parts up. And I feel like the legs are too what's it called? Too narrow. These hip sockets kind of can go up. These can all go. If I move this across, these can be chunkier and shorter. It's more stubby. And the same for arms. Arms quite long. So something like this. Make this slightly bigger. Shorten these. So I'm just going to go faces, X-ray. And I'll delete this. Delete some off just to shorten it. And the shoe, I'll make it slightly scale it up. Want it more bigger. A bit more. So it feels more grounded. So around. See that looks a lot better. The body, I think the body looks maybe a bit. It's matter of preference, but I want something I'm happy with. I'm sure you all do too. You want something that you're happy with. So I think take the time I know we want to, jump and create everything and have it moving, but it's also important to get something that you're happy with. I mean, these are maybe that's too much exaggeration, but yeah, make your tweak it and make it how you want. Maybe I'll add just some laces here. We could actually just probably use something like a curve, and then I'll come in and just adjust the arms. But I'm going to select those Beziers and delete the vertices, the existing ones, and then I'll just use the pen tool. I'll say they draw, and then I kind of just do that. I know it's not perfect. I'm just going to move it into place. And if I go to geometry and add depth, sorry if you hear noise, let me close the window. You hear that background noise? Just close that window. And we're going to just adjust these points. Move this up. So we can just easier to rotate this like this, then boom, there we go. And just push it in. Something like this looks okay, maybe a little bit chunkier. Let's play around with the depth. There we go. And because I can say A, select entire curve, and then keep the same curve, and then just kind of maybe rotate it a little. Here we go. And then I can play around with these points and just get it looking. I'm happy with it. It's not really going into the trainer right now, as you can see. I'm gonna fold that in and just push this in. Of course, if you want more points, you can select both points here, and then if you right click, you can see subdivide, and you can add additional points in between as well. So that should be enough, hopefully. I don't mind it being different. And then I'll do the same on here, subdivide, select this middle one, kind of move it. Push this in, push this in. Actually, I'll push this in a little bit. From above, it looks different. Here we go. And I'll push this up. There we go. So maybe something like, maybe they're too thick, but just add little bits of detail on there that is not necessary. I'm going to hit A, Shift D, and I'll just copy that across. Oh, there we go. I'll be 1 second. Oh, sorry. To get the door. Yeah. I'll be 1 sec. Anyway, let me adjust these arms, and I think the legs I'm happy with. The proportion, legs and the body. Maybe even like this a little bit. I'll just adjust again. I'm just looking at when I step away and then come back. It's always good to step away, come back. I'm looking at it fresh. That's okay. The arms, I think, again, I can shorten them like this. I think it'll just look a lot better. So let's make them bigger. And we're just going to chop this off here. So then if we say this is the elbow joint, I think that'll be alright. I'm going to just... Oh, press the wrong key. I'm going to press Control minus just to reduce that selection there. Actually, that's delete faces. Sorry if you can hear all the bikes going past. Don't know where all the motorbikes are coming from. All of a sudden, and I'll just put this this out a little bit. Let's see how that looks. Maybe a little bit smaller, but I think that looks a lot more better. Then we can select the hand. Maybe bring this in a bit. Just scale it up. Maybe slightly big. I don't mind it being big. Maybe too big, but maybe something like that. I think that looks cool. Let's see if we can round this up a little bit. It kind of looks too rectangular, right? So I'm just going to add a loop cut in the middle and stretch this out a tiny bit. And I'll do the same on this front. Just add the loop cut in the middle. Boom. So take your time, like I said. I know I've repeated myself multiple times. And just tweak it to your liking. That looks a lot more fun and friendlier. And then if I was to select everything, I can even play around with the scale of the head itself. Yeah. Let's look at it from the side. How's it looking? Maybe bring it down. Pull it back a little. It's a little bit too forward. I think it's slightly offset, so I'll just shift that back in. Yeah, that looks okay. I like it. Maybe the ears I want slightly bigger. Let's bring this down a tiny bit. So just connecting. Maybe we'll just, I don't know, just give it a little tilt. Like I said, it's just, yeah, I like that. You like that? I don't know. I hope you like it. Anyway, I think we are in a good position here. So I'll stop it, and then hopefully in the next part, we can start putting some materials on. Don't forget to save your work as well at every stage.